Wall Street future rise after Wall Street closed out October with solid monthly gains lifted by optimism around artificial intelligence, upbeat earnings from major technology companies and easing US-China trade tensions. Asian markets opened mixed ahead of China's PMI data. GIFT Nifty is indicating a lower start for the Indian markets. Crude inches higher after OPEC Plus agrees to halt its ongoing production hikes in the next quarter amid concerns over a looming supply glut. Military escalations in Venezuela also outweigh worries on an oversupplied energy market. Meanwhile, gold continues to fall as investors dial back Fed's rate cut bets. Record sales for Motown in October, driven by festive sentiment, GST cuts as well as pent-up demand. Ashok Leyland and Tata Motors outperform in the four-wheeler segment, while two-wheeler sales for TVS Motors and Eicher come largely in line. In key earnings for Nifty companies due to report numbers today, watch out for performance from Bharti Airtel, Titan, Tata Consumers and Power Grid. The Indian women's cricket team gets its Chakte moment, clinch their maiden women's ODI World Cup title as Dipti Sharma and Shafali Verma star in a thrilling win over South Africa. Hello, good morning. You've tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. I'm Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Obviously, there was all that cheer that came in from India's side after the Indian women's team won the ODI World Cup. We are cheering that today as well this morning. But what is the Asian market looking like after that cheer? Doesn't seem like that's continuing for the markets as well right now. A bit of a mixed opening that we're seeing for the Asian markets. So that is something that we're keeping an eye out on. Taiwan index, that's up 0.5%. Hang Seng is up 0.3%. But look at the Nikkei. That's what I want to talk about, right? Previously, it was closed in the trading session as well today. But the day before, on Friday, was a bumper day there. What we'll keep an eye out on is going to be the Trump and Xi's overall truce that comes in there. That is something keeping the sentiments upbeat. ASX 200, not much of a gain there. Shanghai again down 0.3%, and that's why I said a bit of a mixed opening, because Nifty implied open now is indicating a bit of a mixed start for the Indian markets as well. A bit of a subdued start is what we're keeping an eye out on. As of now, 46 points down is what the Nifty implied open is indicating. But how will all these overnight cues impact our Indian market? We have a team of research joining in with us to set us up for trade, tell you which are the important stocks to watch out for as well in today's trading session. First up, Horvaz, good morning. Which are those important cues that we're keeping an eye out on this week? Obviously, it's a truncated week, but today, what is the key?
Well, if only last night's win would have had any positive bearing on our markets. But indeed, it's a truncated week, but not short of action, to say the least. And the Nifty has been following a very simple template over the last couple of weeks. The dips are getting bought into, but the rallies are getting sold into. It's been a very narrow range for the index all through last week. It's a 400-point range, some support around the 25,700 mark, but the struggle to cross that 26,000, 26,100 zone has been very evident over the last week. Though the bulls will not like that fact. Other than that, the fact that we closed near the lowest point of the day and we even broke the last week's low of 25,720 and we closed near those levels, that is something that the bulls will not like as well. The other bit, of course, being that the banking and IT index heavyweights are not contributing to the index recovery. They were the underperformers last week, and it is only the PSU banks among the banking stocks that are doing the heavy lifting. There was an outperformer last week as well, and the bulls would be hoping that this momentum continues, and the PSU banks not having a significant weightage on the Nifty bank is showing on the Nifty bank's underperformance. The index is down almost 700 to 800 points now from the record highs that it made earlier. For the index, of course, for the Nifty, now last week's low 25,711 becomes the important zone to defend. And for the Nifty Bank, last week's low of 57,652, that becomes an important level to defend for the index. Of course, this is a very important week, even though it is a truncated one, because almost 200 companies report results today. 15 Nifty stocks report results today. That includes SBI, Bharti Airtel, Sun Pharma, Titan, Bajaj Auto, all of them. Not many global cues to watch out for, because after the big tech results and the Fed policy, most of them are now behind. So we will continue to focus on results. We'll watch out for auto sales reactions, GST collections. But one thing to worry about is the extended monsoons, whether that will have an impact on the inflation figures or the demand for a lot of these consumer durables as well. That is something that needs to be kept an eye out for. For now, the GIFT Nifty is indicating a marginally lower start for our markets. Be interesting to see if some support emerges at lower levels.
Okay, Hormas, thank you so much for that. The earnings number did give me a bit of a fright when you did say that. But yes, we'll be keeping an eye out on all those earnings that will be coming out as well. But let's go across to Sonal now, who's here to tell us which are the important stocks that we're keeping an eye out on. Good morning, Sonal.
Good morning, Winnie. Well, let me start with BPCL. It was a good set, strong refining performance this time around, slightly lower than the poll, but quarter on quarter it was a growth in margins and profits were up 5%. Their GRMs came in at $10.8 per barrel versus an estimate of $7.5 per barrel. For Godrej Consumer, the revenues were up 4.3%, but the EBITDA was down 3.5%, but the numbers are largely in line with the CNBC TV18 poll. BEL in its conference call did give some guidance. They spoke about how EBITDA margins will be similar to current levels. They're expecting 27% plus margins in FY26 and they do have orders worth 2,000 crore rupees in the pipeline to be received in the next 2 weeks. Bank of Baroda, we did get their operational update. The loan growth came in at 11.9% YOY. Both their gross NPA and net NPA have seen a decline on a quarter-on-quarter basis. It was a good set reported by the bank. Vedanta on its conference call gave important commentary. They are confident of completing demerger by the end of this financial year. Very important. Of course, we'll hear more from the management as well. Tata Chemicals, it was a net profit decline of 60% on a YOY basis to come in at 77 crore rupees. And of course, we'll have all the auto stocks on our radar as well. We got auto sales over the weekend, so we'll watch out for them as well.
Okay, Sonal, thank you so much for that. But finally, let's go across to Sudarshan, who's here to tell us what are the important cues in the world of F&O today. Good morning, Sudarshan.
Good morning, Vinny. So it's cheer on the street across the country, and that's the courtesy that Indian women's team won the World Cup for the very first time. But the same is not mirroring for our market because FI selling is back. And last week we saw that the selling that we saw in the last 2 days has led to the negative returns for both Nifty and Sensex, while it was a minor green, weekly green for Nifty Bank. And for today, also following the mixed global cues, GIFT Nifty is indicating start with a cut of around 40 to 50 points. Look at the flows. In the cash market, we saw FI selling more than rupees 6,700 crore. But again, on a regular basis that we have been seeing, DIs have offset that. DIs have bought more than rupees 7,000 crore. In the index futures too, we have seen FI selling more than rupees 1,600 crore. Now long exposure has reduced to 16%. They have also added short positions of more than 7,700 contracts, and that was reflecting in the options data as well. On the call side for both 25,800 and 25,900, we have seen premium falling, while on the put side for 25,700 and 25,800, for both these strike rates, premium has increased further. Support for Nifty, 25,530. Resistance would be 26,000. For Nifty Bank, support would be 57,200 and resistance would be 58,000. Not even a single stock is in the band, but I'll keep an eye on first Kotak Mahindra. For the last few sessions after Q2 earnings, stock has been under pressure, and on Friday also it has seen fresh shorts. And on the long side, Phoenix, keep an eye, it has reported Q2 earnings and earnings looked very strong and the stock has been seeing fresh longs.
Okay, Sudarshan, thank you so much for that. But viewers, do not forget, the countdown to India's most prestigious business award has begun, and the jury of 21st India Business Leader Awards met in Mumbai to pick the winners. They include the biggest names in the corporate India world. We caught up with two industry captains, Kumar Mangalam Birla and Sun Pharma founder Dilip Sanghvi, on the sidelines of the event. Sanghvi said that he was confident about the outlook for the growth in Europe and America. Birla also, who is the chair, said that the IBLA jury, he wants his group companies to be in the top 2 across industries.
My own assessment of our industry is that it's a very stable industry because pharmaceutical products are used for treating patients who are not well, and that's a process which gives us much more consistent business. However, globally, internationally, there are changes which are happening, especially because of certain changes in Europe and US. But fortunately, I think pharmaceutical industry has not been affected because there are no tariffs likely to be imposed.
And what do you think is your message for the pharmaceutical industry right now? What are the challenges that, according to you, they're facing? What are the opportunities here? What are the threats?
I see a tremendous opportunity for pharmaceutical industry. India already is the what you call pharmaceutical export or pharmacy of the world. So we are largest exporter of generic products. I think what we need to do is catch up on innovation, and that's something which I see significant progress being made.
I think being in the top one or two in the industry that they are in, with return on equity, that's specifically each one's target. Largely, that's how we work.
Are you particularly chuffed about some of the forays that you've made, especially in the consumer space? With the GST cuts that have happened, that would boost consumption and the money that people have in their hands. Have you seen that on the ground?
Yeah, I think they had a very good Diwali. I think both paints and as well as retail, jewelry retail. It's our first time with such sort of hardcore consumer brands, and it's good to see them having taken off so well.
How happy are you with what you've done? And obviously, it takes a lot of capital commitment to that as well. So
I think both have gone off to a great start, much above targets and much better than I had expected.
Okay, interesting updates there coming in from that IBLA jewelry meet. But it's record sales numbers that has come in for October month for the auto sector, led by festive demand, GST cards, pent-up demand. That is what we were seeing. But Sudarshan is here to give us those details. Good morning. Back again, actually, Sudarshan.
Good morning again, Vinny. So October sales for the auto companies have come in largely in line or slightly better than estimates. And unlike the past, or say for the previous few months, this time the outperformers are CV companies like Ashok Leyland and Tata Motors, while PV companies and two-wheeler companies have reported sales, and those numbers are largely in line. So we'll start with Mahindra and Mahindra. So for auto segment, sales are largely in line, and that has been led by SUV segment, which has seen a growth of almost 31%, and SUV sales are led by the new launches that company has made in the month of October, like new edition of Thar, Bolero and Bolero Neo. Even CV segment has done better. Growth was in the range of 14 to 16%. Coming to tractor segment, it has done much better than our expectation. And this was due to rural pickup that has been seen due to GST rate cut and the festive season. And tractor sales were up 13% against expectation of a flat. Maruti Suzuki has reported highest ever monthly sales led by domestic growth. Exports have seen a minor growth. Total sales have increased 7%, domestic sales were up 9%, and the growth was led by compact and SUV segments. Hyundai India has underperformed. Lower than expectations, total sales have remained flat, and even domestic sales have seen a decline of almost 3%, while export was up just 11%. Tata Motors, one of the biggest outperformers in the month of August. Total sales for both PV and CV combined have increased by 20%. But remember, the listed company is of Tata Motors passenger vehicles. So PV sales were up 27%, and in the festive season, company has delivered more than 1 lakh vehicles. Ashok Leyland, like Tata Motors, big beat to expectations, have seen all-round healthy growth. Total sales have increased 16% versus expectation of 11%. And the biggest positive part is bus segment has reversed the recent underperformance that this segment has been seeing. And total M&HCV segment also sales were up 15%. And for the bus segment, sales have increased by 34%. In two-wheeler space, two companies have reported numbers, TVS Motor and Eicher Motors Royal Enfield. And numbers of both these companies are largely in line with estimates. For festive season, Eicher Motors has said that they have recorded growth of almost 26%, much higher than what company had seen the last year. So overall, it's a good set of numbers that we have seen from the auto companies for the month of October.
Okay, Sudarshan, thank you so much for that good numbers in terms of auto sales for the month of October. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Up next, we'll get you cues from the Wall Street. Stay tuned in. Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. And like I mentioned before, we're going to take a check on what happened on Wall Street. Now, US markets, when you see it, look at it on Friday, they ended higher, posted strong earnings that came in, especially from Apple and Amazon, which was leading the gains there. The Dow was up 41 points, S&P 500 gained 18 points, Nasdaq was up almost 144 points. We have CNBC's Christina Parton-Alvarez, who's joining us to give us a wrap on what happened on Wall Street.
U.S. markets were up across the major indices in Friday trading after strong earnings from Apple and Amazon really seemed to quiet investor concerns about the trajectory of AI spending. The Dow gained 41 points, the S&P 500 added 18, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq was up 144 points. Shares in Amazon spiked 11% on Friday on its cloud computing revenue, which increased 20% in the third quarter. CEO Andy Jassy said demand for its AWS unit is growing at its fastest pace since 2022, and that artificial intelligence and core infrastructure are both seeing strong demand. As a result, Amazon also lifted its capital expenditure guidance for the year from $118 to $125 billion. Elon Musk's SpaceX is set to receive a $2 billion contract as part of President Trump's Golden Dome project. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which reports SpaceX will create satellites that track missiles and airplanes, and that SpaceX will have, quote, a major role in 2 more Pentagon satellite projects, one for military communications and the other tracking ground vehicles. That's what's happening here in the United States. Back to you in Mumbai.
Thank you so much for that. But now getting you the latest on Trump-related developments, we have Dia joining in with us in our special segment, Trump Watch. Dia, over to you.
Good morning. Starting off with a statement from the White House that says China will suspend new export controls on rare earth metals and end investigations into U.S. semiconductor companies. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has, however, warned that Washington is prepared to raise tariffs if Beijing fails to follow through or continues restricting rare earth exports. Now, trade tensions aside, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said both sides have agreed to restore military-to-military communication channels, a move aimed at avoiding miscalculations. Moving on, Trump also said Chinese President Xi Jinping understands the consequences of any potential move to invade Taiwan. In a media interview, Trump declined to say whether the U.S. would defend the island, adding that Taiwan never ever came up in the talks. And in other news, Trump has also warned of possible military actions in Nigeria if the government fails to curb militant attacks, which he said have targeted Christian communities. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said he's instructing the Pentagon to prepare for possible action. And lastly, a clarification on the president's latest order regarding nuclear testings. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said the nuclear weapon testing ordered by Trump will not involve explosive detonations at this time. That's all. Back to you, Neil.
Thank you so much for that, Dia. But on that note, we're actually going to slip into a very short break. After we come back, we'll talk about what's happening in the world of commodities. Stay tuned in. Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Now let's move on. And India's goods and service tax collection for the month of October grew by 4.6% year-on-year basis to 1.96 lakh crores, indicating resilience in consumption despite the extensive GST rate rationalization during the month. This keeps the GST mop up close to the 2 lakh crore rupees milestone for the third straight month. However, when you look at it, the net GST revenue grew marginally, only by 0.6% year-on-year basis on the back of a higher export incentive and credit settlements across manufacturing heavy sectors. Now, that's the latest update there on GST, but what's happening in the world of commodities? Let's go across to Manisha for that. Good morning, Manisha.
Morning, and thank you so much for that. I'll start with the crude oil prices because the OPEC Plus meeting has happened, and it has been slightly bullish for the prices because they have hiked the output for December by a very small 137,000 barrels per day. But the OPEC also says that they will pause production hikes in the first quarter of 2026 on an expected supply glut, and this is usually a weak demand period as well. So that seems to be working well for the crude oil prices. So some steady moves in the Asian markets right now. What has seen a decline actually has been the metals as a space. Gold, especially after China has scrapped that gold tax incentive starting from 1st of November. So this will now not allow retailers to offset their VAT when they are selling gold, which is bought from Shanghai Gold Exchange. So the new rule is for all forms of gold, whether it is industrial, investment, bars, coins, or jewelry for that matter. So immediately this means that consumers in China who want to buy gold will have to pay higher prices because the tax offset is not there. We have seen a knee-jerk reaction come in for the gold prices because of that, but not so much because we still seem to be holding around that $4,000 per ounce mark. Markets will want to analyze on whether China will move to Hong Kong or Singapore, other countries apart from Shanghai Gold. So that is something that we would understand in coming days. But at this point in time, the knee-jerk reaction from this move coming in from China has been slightly on the weaker side.
Okay, Manisha, thank you so much for that, for the latest update in the world of commodities. But we told you last Friday that the entire nation will be feverishly praying for Indian women cricket team to give us and the honor of addressing them as the world champions. And you bet they did not disappoint. In a final for the ages, the Indian women's cricket team emerged triumphant over South Africa by 52 runs, claiming their first ever women's world title in over 40 years of the tournament history. Shefali Verma's golden arm and the golden bat Dipti Sharma all-round show by Richa Ghosh. Long levers, everyone played their part as at the D.Y. Patil Stadium on Sunday night. And of course, the crowd which cheered every run scored and every wicket taken with equal gusto. And these visuals on your screen may just give you all the cricket fans hope that the ghosts and scars of November 19, 2023 will slowly but surely be put to rest. From all of us at CNBC TV18, we extend our heartiest congratulations to the entire bunch of female cricketers. We leave you on Power Breakfast with these images which will be remembered for generations to come.